Somewhere along the way, you stopped just living and started watching yourself live. You'd walk into a room and instantly feel everything. A slight shift in someone's tone, a silence that lasted half a second too long, a smile that looked normal but somehow didn't feel real. Before anyone said anything directly, your mind had already started building a whole story around the room. At first, maybe that felt like a gift. You could read people, you could sense what was hidden, you could feel when something was off before anyone else noticed. And honestly, there is intelligence in that. Some people move through life like everything is surface level. You don't. You catch the layers beneath the layer. You hear the sentence, but you also feel the emotion underneath it. But slowly, that awareness can stop feeling like wisdom and start feeling like a cage. You can't just laugh without wondering if you laughed too loudly. You can't send a simple message without reading it 5 times. You can't feel sad without asking, why am I sad? What does this mean? Am I falling back into an old pattern? Even peace doesn't feel fully peaceful because part of you is checking whether the peace is real. And that's the exhausting part. The mind isn't resting anymore. It's scanning, measuring, comparing, judging. You're there but not fully there. A part of you is always standing outside the moment, watching your own face, your own voice, your own reactions. Life becomes less like a river you're swimming in and more like footage you're reviewing after the fact. But you didn't become this way because something is wrong with you. Most likely, you became this way because at some point, noticing everything helped you survive. Maybe you had to read moods before they became storms. Maybe you had to understand people quickly so you could protect yourself. Maybe calm wasn't always calm, so your nervous system learned to check twice. Awareness became your shield. It helped you predict disappointment, avoid conflict, sense rejection before it arrived. But now the shield is so close to your skin that you've forgotten what it feels like to move without it. And the question isn't, how do you stop being aware? You probably can't. The better question is, how do you become aware without becoming trapped inside your own awareness? Real self-awareness is supposed to bring you closer to yourself. It's supposed to help you understand your patterns, your wounds, your needs, your truth. But too much of it can split you in two. One part of you feels. Another part immediately watches the feeling, judges it, explains it, and decides whether it's acceptable. Sadness appears, and instead of letting it pass through you, your mind says, why is this here? Is this valid? Am I being ungrateful? Should I be over this by now? Anger rises, and before you even understand what it's trying to protect, you start questioning whether you're being unfair, immature, triggered, or dramatic. Even joy gets pulled apart. You're having a good moment. Then suddenly the mind whispers, are you really happy, or are you just distracting yourself? It's exhausting, like trying to dance while constantly checking your reflection in a mirror. You may still know the steps, but the joy disappears. The body wants to move, but the mind keeps correcting the movement. The soul wants to breathe, but the inner critic is standing there with a clipboard. And maybe you've done this with healing too. You ask whether every desire is authentic, whether every fear is trauma, whether every reaction is ego, avoidance, intuition, or some old wound speaking. Those questions can be useful. They really can. But when every thought has to be examined before you're allowed to move, life becomes heavy. At some point, self-awareness can turn into self-surveillance. You stop relating to yourself like a human being and start treating yourself like a project, something to fix, something to optimize, something to understand perfectly before it can be trusted. But you're not a broken machine on a table. You're alive. And living things need space, not constant inspection. There's a point where you have to let yourself be human again. Not every emotion needs a deep explanation. Not every mood is a message from your past. Sometimes you're tired. Sometimes you're hungry. Sometimes you just feel off because you're a human being with a body, a nervous system, and a heart that has carried a lot. Some feelings only want to be felt, not solved. And when you stop turning every inner movement into a trial, something soft begins to return. You become less afraid of your own emotions. You stop needing to understand yourself perfectly before you allow yourself to exist. And from there, life starts becoming less of a performance and more of a place you can actually inhabit. The more aware you become, the harder it can be to take things simply. A compliment doesn't feel like a compliment anymore. You wonder what they want. A late reply doesn't feel like a late reply. You wonder if they're pulling away. Someone seems quiet, and your mind starts filling the silence with meanings that may not even be there. That's the lonely part of being deeply aware. You see layers everywhere. And yes, people are complicated. Not every smile is honest. Not every apology is real. Not every kind gesture is pure. You've probably learned that the hard way, so your caution makes sense. But if your mind treats every moment like a hidden threat, you'll never be able to rest inside connection. Because connection requires some softness, not foolishness, not ignoring red flags, not pretending everything is fine when it clearly isn't, but a little softness, a little willingness to let people be more than your interpretation of them, a little room for someone to be tired, distracted, awkward or imperfect without turning it into a whole prophecy about where the relationship is going. When you're too self-aware, you don't only analyze yourself, you start analyzing everyone else too. You hear what they say, then you hear what they might mean, then you hear what they might be hiding, then you hear what that could mean about you. Before you know it, you're not in the conversation anymore. You're in the basement of the conversation, checking the pipes. And then there's empathy, the kind that doesn't feel like a choice. You feel people's moods before they explain them. You sense tension and immediately try to soften the room. You choose your words carefully, manage your face, manage your tone, manage the atmosphere. People may love being around you because they feel understood, but afterward, you're the one who goes home tired. The painful truth is that you may have become the emotional container for everyone around you. You absorb what people don't know how to hold. You make space for their pain, their confusion, their anger, their insecurity. And because you're good at it, people may not even realize what it costs you. They walk away lighter. You walk away carrying the room. But noticing something doesn't mean you have to carry it. You can sense someone's sadness without becoming responsible for healing it. You can see someone's insecurity without becoming their therapist. You can feel the energy in a room without making it your job to fix the temperature. Some things are meant to be noticed and released, not collected. That's where awareness becomes mature. It doesn't disappear. It simply gains boundaries. You still see deeply, but you don't drown in what you see. You still care, but you don't confuse caring with carrying. You still notice the silence, the tone, the shift, the sadness, but you no longer treat every signal as an assignment. You don't need to become less aware. That's not the goal. The goal is to stop turning awareness into control, because sometimes, underneath all the overthinking, there's a quiet belief that says, if I can predict everything, I won't get hurt. So your mind runs simulations. What if they leave? What if I fail? What if something goes wrong? What if I'm not ready? What if I finally relax and that's when life surprises me? But life can't be fully controlled before you live it. You can prepare, yes. You can be wise. You can have boundaries. You can listen to your intuition. But at some point you have to step back into the present without demanding a guarantee from it. The present moment will never sign a contract promising you won't feel pain. Still, it offers something the future never can: actual life. Start small. Not every silence is a message. Not every body sensation is danger. Not every emotion needs action. Not every insight needs to be spoken. Sometimes peace begins with saying, maybe this doesn't need my full attention right now. That sentence alone can loosen the grip of 1,000 spirals. If your heart beats fast, maybe it's just a sensation. If someone replies late, maybe they're just busy. If you feel strange for a few hours, maybe your body is asking for rest instead of a full identity crisis. You don't have to chase every thought down the hallway. You don't have to answer every alarm. You don't have to turn every cloud into a storm report. And slowly, awareness softens. It stops being a sharp light exposing every flaw and becomes more like a candle. Still bright enough to help you see, but gentle enough to keep you warm. You still notice things. You still feel deeply, but you're no longer pulled into every thought, every mood, every possible future. You can let life be complicated without making yourself responsible for solving all of it. Coming back to life doesn't mean becoming careless. It means becoming present again. Laughing without reviewing the laugh, resting without earning it, feeling without explaining it, loving without scanning for the ending, letting a good moment be good without asking how long it will last. So let yourself live again, not perfectly, not fearlessly, just honestly. Your depth was never the problem. The problem was believing you had to carry everything your depth revealed. Awareness is a gift, but only when it brings you closer to life, not further away from it. And if this feels familiar, take it as a quiet invitation. Come back to the room, come back to your body, come back to the ordinary beauty you may have been too busy analyzing to receive. Life doesn't need you to understand every part of it before you enter. Sometimes, it only asks you to put down the shield for one small moment and step forward anyway.